Okay. And I guess, sharing the screen. Does everybody have a copy of the agenda? Yes. Okay.
Do you have print copies?
They're over there. They're print copies over, on the counter. So the first thing on the agenda, I'm running the meeting, and Ryan really should be running the meeting, but he's way down at the end of the table, far away from the mic. So do you mind, do you want to sit closer to the mic, or do you want me to leave?
Right here. You and Barry will do most of the time.
I can swap.
Which is fine with me, but yeah, I can move closer.
I won't like it.
Just sitting down there so I could go tell people to go away.
Okay, go for it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the end of May, midsummer, well, early summer, I guess, Sage General Membership Meeting. Those of us who bothered to show up, there's coffee and snacks over there. Those who didn't, sorry, you don't get any.
You're right. I was wondering if we could go around the room here.
Yes.
And just indicate names and library affiliation, and then we could do the same thing online.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So we want to start.
Kathy, you want to start?
I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Kathy Street. I'm the library director for the Oregon Trail Library District.
Hi, I'm Cecily Longhorn from the Stanfield Public Library.
I'm Ryan McGinnis Legrand.
Mary Reeser from Gillum County.
Adam Sims, I'm the interim director at Blue Mountain Community College.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name.
Yeah, Adam Sims.
Adam? Okay, thanks.
I'm Denise Rapstroff from the Press Public.
I'm Rose Peacock, and I work here at Cook Memorial Library in LaGrange. Carrie Bushman from here in LaGrange as well.
Michelle Timmons at Elgin Library. J.P. Waters also at Elgin Library.
Noli Huey from Baker County.
Perry Stokes from Baker County.
Erin McCusker from Umatilla County Special Library District.
And Beth Ross, Sage Library System. Although a lot of you know me as Beth Longwell, so. Okay. And those online, can you either in the chat or using your microphone indicate your name and library?
DNO, Umatilla County Special Library District.
Mark Rose, Hermiston Public Library.
Okay, Marcia in the chat from Klamath Community College. And John George, Assistant Specialist in Washington. Okay, did we catch everybody?
John Brockman from Baker County is also online in the chat.
Oh, okay, thanks. All right.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting? And does anybody have any comments, questions, corrections for those minutes?
Look good to me. I'll move that they be approved. Carried.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is Kathy taking minutes?
No,
Who is taking minutes? Is anybody?
I can.
Well, I have been.
Okay.
Oh, Mark took vice president on condition that Beth would take minutes. Do you want me to take them today, though?
It's fine. I just listened to the recording, so
Okay,
either way
perfect.
is fine.
Okay.
Okay, minutes approved.
All right. And then next we have the committee reports. So have we had a cataloging committee meeting since March?
We have.
All right.
John, do you want me to read the summary that you sent, or did you want to read it? since you're with us.
If you have it in front of you, go ahead. Yeah, Beth, if you have it in front of you, go ahead and read it.
Okay. All right. John Brockman is the chair of the cataloging committee. So I asked him for a summary. We talked about the new authorities from LTI. I've been busily adding those to the system. Still working on name authority records. All of the bid records have been updated, as well as subject authorities. Training resources, mentors have conducted a few training sessions covering topics such as correct practice for entering series, referencing authorities, and maneuvering in the web client. They have been uploaded to YouTube, and more training sessions are scheduled for the coming months. With the next update to the ILS making the staff client obsolete, web client training will be prioritized. Display changes. As a result of new protocol for series, some changes have been made to the OPAC to facilitate easier discovery. For example, items belonging to multiple series will now display all series entries, and series part names now display. Website and YouTube changes. We're looking, because of the number of resources we have there, doing some reorganization. So, is planned for both the Sage Cataloging website as well as the YouTube page. List of resources will be changed to hierarchies and/or folders for easier discovery, as I can figure out how to do that. That was my little addition. Realia and Library of Things. More libraries are adding items into Library of Things collections, and discussions of best practices are ongoing in regards to consistent description and circulation protocols. So, great. It's a summary for the cataloging committee.
Okay. Have we had a circulation committee meeting?
But we have not.
Okay.
Kathy has indicated that she is willing to be the chair of that committee, and so
I'm just not sure what to do.
Well, I will help you. Thank you. Okay. So look forward to seeing an announcement about an upcoming meeting when Kathy and I can coordinate a time and get that committee going again. Career committee did not meet, although there was lots of exciting career things happening. So I'll give an update on that. So Klamath Courier, we were trying to speed up things, delivery of materials to students. So I created click and ship accounts for the main drop sites. And lo and behold, USPS changed their software, and it no longer, it blocks using the credit card because the profile of the account does not match the address of the credit card, which makes it essentially unusable for business purposes. So we've had to back away from that, and I'm going to be sending out an email to have libraries send the materials back, send them through EOU if the click and ship does not work. We have some charges will go through, but anyway, it's been a nightmare. What we're pursuing for the new fiscal year is Orbis Cascade Courier for Klamath, and we're hoping to get Klamath Community College as a participating library under OIT. I'm negotiating, we're willing to spend some money for this, if you let us be a participating library on you. So more news coming out about that in the future. So that's the Klamath Courier. I don't know how long ago, was it a week and a half ago, I got notice, maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks that the courier that was supplying Wallowa County materials was no longer going to service that area, and here was the drop dead date. And so we've been scrambling. We did find a new courier that is starting Monday, so we can all breathe a sigh of relief. But it's just all these courier things happening at the same time. It's kind of like, what's happening here? But anyway, new courier starts Monday, and we're going to be working out how many stops they could make and charges and all of that, but at least we have a courier. Still working on a solution for outgoing materials out of the district. BMCC is going to be shut down for the month of August, and we don't have anybody to create the outgoing labels in the XPAC system for all the materials leaving the IMESD courier zone. So it's a big deal, guys. So, we need a staff person an hour a day to create those labels for us in August. So sending out the
Where?
In Pendleton.
Physically where?
Pendleton.
Oh. So that cuts me out.
Yeah, because we have to have a way for the ESD to drop it off at some site in the Pendleton area that, would be willing to.
In Pendleton's a no-go.
What's that?
Pendleton's a no-go.
I never heard back from them. I haven't abandoned that idea, but I think I'm going to have to follow up with them.
Yeah, and I'll keep talking with my boss, see if there's some way, even if we can work with just our part-timers, and see if we can get them to come in, but
I know.
Budget, it's always fun. So.
Yeah, and there might be a way that we could look at career money and see if we could compensate those folks for doing that extra work and coming in, just so we can keep that service going. So those are the 3 courier things that have, come all of a sudden. Life happens, and it's important to keep the courier going because our patrons really utilize the service. So anyway, that's the courier update.
Let's conference call on that.
Okay.
And we can, we're not on the drop site, but we might be able to throw some staff at it.
Okay.
Myself or Monica periodically. We are not going to be able to kind of cover it, and we aren't a drop spot. So
no, I figured I would work with the ESD or work with XPAC to wherever we were temporarily doing stuff, just to have a new location.
Yeah, just let me know so I'll be part of the conversation.
Probably Ione and OTLD need to be included in that since we're all in the same contract.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Systems update?
Systems update.
I had a quick question about circulation. I've just met with a couple librarians lately, and they've brought this up about lost books when they've been interlibrary loaned.
Yes.
And is this the place to talk about that under circulation, or do you want to talk? Is there another time to talk about it?
Let's bring it up at the circulation committee meeting.
Okay,
that we're going to have.
Do
we haven't had it scheduled yet.
Yeah.
And what about courier issues? Is that supposed to be part of the courier meeting?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people feel that it has not been addressed whatsoever.
Okay.
The packaging. And even though it seems that we get messages coming from the committee or from you and John, then we continue to get the same types of issues the very next week, like nobody's read the emails.
Okay.
So I don't know if the committee, just saving it to speak about in committee is really addressing everybody's concerns.
So the issue is inadequately
Packaging
and causing damage.
The one issue specifically was don't put the label right on the DVD boxes because then they're not, it ruins the box and they're not in the envelopes and boxes can open it. And then the very next week, so it had to be sent after that message went out. We got one, other libraries got them.
There's one that lasted.
Yeah, and then people asking for bags and just sending it out on the listserv instead of sending the email to Jeff. Is that who we're supposed to do it to?
No, we can,
or John, or
sending it out on the general listserv is fine. We were going to try and direct those to the circulation listserv,
right?
But
I just feel there's a lot of frustration regarding the courier packaging that affects people's day-to-day feelings about SAGE. I mean, it's a small part of SAGE, but it's the overwhelming part of our day-to-day activities.
Well, I'm wondering if the ILO folks that are handling these don't get those emails.
I know my staff does. I don't know how to other libraries.
My staff
does.
Sometimes I think it's really generic too. I mean, when you get that stuff, see where it came from.
We do.
And maybe talk to them directly.
I have done that repeatedly
But no,
for
they
2
don't
years
help.
and it doesn't help.
Oh, really?
Because what we get consistently are boxes, cardboard box full of items from the Dalles. And then when we open it, there's multiple items in there. And they say this happens at the ESD also. Instead of doing bags, they just send a cardboard box with everything in it together, dump it out, so the ESD then sorts it, and they don't have bags to put it in, so they just sort it, and that's how we get things that aren't in bags.
Yeah, so we did send an email about that.
That has not stopped.
But it has not stopped. Okay.
No, and we, in Baker County, we get a lot from Hood River that are just big boxes weighing 30, 40 pounds, and they're just stacked in there. DVDs are not in individual boxes, they're just stacked in there.
Broken cases.
And that has to be where some of the green bags
There needs to be some consistency. And then the other thing I've noticed is we'll get it goes the opposite direction. We'll get a courier bag. Inside of it is a padded envelope. Inside of that padded envelope is a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And inside of that's the DVD.
Yes.
Okay, so there's 3 layers too much, and our boxes are full, and that's the other issue, I think. Maybe if you send pictures of how the different couriers, in Hood River, they have big totes like you see at McKesson ones that send to Walmart, the big red flop over totes. Oh, we have milk crates, and they can't go over the lip of the milk crate, or else the courier won't take it. He'll flop it out on the floor and like, oh, this can't go today. And because it slides off in his truck. So if they put 3 layers too much for one DVD, well, then there might not be room for some of our books.
Yeah.
So there's extremes. And I just feel when I work with my staff of 10 people and talk about Sage, this is the #1 complaint. Number one.
Okay.
And it's frustrating to me.
Right.
Because for me, it's just a small part of Sage.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the whole part of Sage, but it's their daily life.
Yeah. Okay.
So it sounds like a lot of the problem is coming from the large
Hood
ILL
River and the
members.
Dalles is the ones we see the most from.
So they're dealing with so much
And are they-
volume that they don't have time to.
And I feel like sometimes they don't have the time to participate in our Sage meetings. So maybe they're not hearing this.
We do need somebody to contact.
I have contacted them. Personally called them up on the phone and talked to the person in charge of
What level of
ILLs.
person did you talk to?
I can't remember right now. She was the person in charge of the ILLs at the Dalles. And she's like, well, we tell everybody not to do that. And then the next week we get another one.
We do. There's
Right.
no action and
Right.
follow up and on the.
Maybe I need to go up the totem pole or go down. Maybe talking to the person in charge of ILL, and it's not filtering down. I don't know.
Okay, well, we'll see what we can do.
Thanks.
Question.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the Orbis Cascade did their inventory for their bags and totes. Have we done an inventory for Sage bags to see if we have enough
We
supplies?
talked about it.
We did talk about it. I ordered more bags and got both large bags and small bags. So we have quite a big supply. Oftentimes it's just getting it to the right locations at the right time.
Is it Jeff or is that his name, the guy at EOU?
Yes.
When I email him, he sends me a bunch.
Yeah.
So I think that's the better way than putting it on the listserv, because when you put it on the listserv, you're just depending on everybody to see it and say, oh, we have a few extra. If you email them, he sends you a wad of them.
And that's Jeff
Jeff McDonald at EOU.
So if we have an overabundance, are we supposed to send them to Jeff?
I think that's a good practice.
You can.
Great.
That's where we
I
pretty much
normally
had
just
the
hoard
hub
them
for
because
the supplies.
Eventually I'm gonna run
I
out.
hoard mine too, because we run out.
Because I share with Bob quite a bit too.
It would be good, maybe just one hub is working for a distribution point, but maybe we need regional hubs where people do send an excess that can then be rapidly dispersed in their region.
That's a good idea.
My biggest concern is I think a lot of our bags might be sitting in the Dalles and Hood River. Because if a lot's coming back in boxes, they're going down in bags. So where are they sitting? So.
And I have a question about like the DVD boxes. So we're getting big boxes full of DVDs. I'm wondering, is there a lack of DVD boxes that's causing that maybe? Or, because I've seen a lot of requests for DVD DVD boxes.
Yeah, that's another WordPress receipt.
I did order more DVD boxes because we did run out at EOU. Obviously, there was a bunch in the system, but I was concerned if we didn't have boxes at EOU as the central supply, that we probably needed more.
Yeah.
So we did order more to kind of meet that need.
I know there's so everybody wants to see some today.
There you go.
Actually, a box comes for you. Perfect. DVD boxes.
Nice.
I haven't ordered that, I apologize. They're hard to send out.
And then thank you for getting the triple for DVD boxes. Those fit in there without us having to stuff bubble wrap in there to keep them from shifting around. Thank you for getting those.
You're welcome. Cool. Okay, so yeah, careers and it's a vibrant topic, let's put it that way.
And it's so, I just started doing some of the career during the breaks, spring breaks and winter breaks for IMESD, and it's more and more. We keep adding bins for the different libraries, so it's being well used, and people have figured out how to get online and use it, and they are, and so that's good. Yay, we should celebrate that. But yeah, I've seen that just in a couple years, it's been a huge.
We get hundreds and hundreds of things in and out every week here.
Yeah.
So
It's crazy.
So that's awesome for patrons. They
Well,
love
the
it.
niche thing will be great because there'll be a video on how to do it.
There we
Make
go.
everyone watch it.
And take a quiz.
and you can make a video about how to properly package everything.
Okay. We're getting ideas already.
But
I
that way
did-
you can say, there's a video, if you didn't do it right.
Make them watch
You
I did
do it.
neglect to
Yeah.
mention that we did get our LSTA courier grant again for this upcoming year. So we're continuing to be funded, which is great. Between Sage dollars and LSTA dollars, we have the courier covered for next year. Systems update, just a quick one. We had some issues a couple weeks ago with space, and it's not space overall, it was the space where the backups were being stored, and backups are important, so we didn't want to, with Equinox's help, we reconfigured things, but we are looking at getting some hardware to offload some of those things so they're not dragging down space on our other servers. Doing research at this point and working with EOU as well as Equinox to figure out what equipment we want to buy, the cost and those kind of things. We are also looking at, depending on how many bug fixes are incorporated into 3.1.12, John and I might do a minor upgrade, off hours from 3:11 to 3:12. But we haven't penciled in a date for that or even decided for sure that we want to do that. It's just in the thinking stages right now. I have an update from the State Library on Ninja Academy. Okay, so I emailed Darcy Hanning at the State Library. This is her answer. The State Library will host, in bold, all possible tutorials made available by Ninja Academy, and I'll forward this to you, Beth, other Ninja Academy customers, etc., through the marketplace. Most likely, these will be curated, hopefully by an advisory committee for all Oregon Library staff and patrons. State Library staff will create additional tutorials as time allows and based on need and or requests by libraries. It will work much like the current pilot. I recommend that Sage folks visit the pilot we've been offering, which is available through June 30th. And I'll forward this to Beth, or I can put it out on the Sage listserv. I believe that once the State Library has subscribed to Niche Academy post-pilot, libraries will still be able to add links on their websites for patron use, as has been possible during the pilot. The primary limitation is that individual libraries will not be able to create their own academies or tutorials. We are moving forward with an RFP and have budgeted for the software, but it may not be available by July 1st. Let me know if you or the Sage folks have any other questions about Niche Academy. We are excited at the prospect of being able to offer this service to Oregon Library staff. So it sounds like, so if Sage wants to add their own tutorials, we're going to have our own subscription. Yeah. Okay. But that was useful information. At least we know that that level is.
Oh, and here's another one. I should have mentioned that if another Niche Academy customer has created evergreen tutorials and made them shareable, the state library will be able to add them to our academies and modify them locally. Sorry for missing that key point in my last email.
Yeah, we'd have to rely on other evergreen libraries creating them.
Yeah, so that's an interesting post.
But do you think that how she's putting in requests for things she would like, the same thing can be done? If there's something you want, send it to them, and maybe they'll create it. So it's
specifically said in the email, if there's something you want, send it to us.
Yeah, yeah. So it may not be, maybe.
I don't know if Sage would be considered a library, or if it would have to be as a Sage library is asking for. See what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to, it'll all come down to price point and how much it's going to cost for our own license, as to whether we want to go for it or whether we want to take advantage of what others have done in the evergreen community and go that route. It'd be nice to have the flexibility to put our own stuff up, and I like the ability to monitor staff that have taken certain tutorials, and just for ongoing staff development, I think that's a really nice element. So I'll work with Jim and see if we can get that pricing, and I'll get that out to you.
Thanks.
So we just really need it for internal training, is what you're saying mostly, rather than patron training of the evergreen.
Yeah, I mean, if the state is offering all of those modules, patrons are going to cover. There might be some stuff on evergreen that would be useful, like how to place a hold and on the evergreen system, and having it look like Sage looks for our patrons, I think would be a comfort level thing.
If Sage created it, it'd be in the marketplace for us to add onto ours.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you had continued your individual one, yes. All right.
I have a low tech question.
Okay.
Over the last week, if I leave the circulation computer and I don't use it, my screen freezes, and maybe an in-house thing, but it's kind of new, and so I have to open a new window. If it goes 15, 20 minutes between circulations, so I don't know if that's a problem anybody else is having, if that's just something. So
I hadn't heard, nobody has reported it, but maybe they have not been in the same situation and haven't seen it.
It's pretty consistent, like every time. I mean, I don't have a lot of times that are long enough to make it do that. But
so you have to re-log in?
No, I just closed the circulation window and it's opening the window and it goes just fine. But
I feel like we were having that issue here in LeGrand a month or so ago, and I uninstalled and reinstalled Evergreen, and I don't think it's happened since.
You talking about the client version or the web-based version?
The client.
The client, yeah. I tried to use the web-based one, and I scan a book and wait.
Yeah. That's what ours was.
Yeah, we've had that issue too.
And then it puts it in their queue, and then I scan another one. So, I don't know, we have about as fast Wi-Fi as you can get without counting, but it doesn't seem like whatever is going on there is
interesting.
Because I thought that would be great. I mean, I think that's a wonderful.
Yeah.
We were having that as a software issue here, and it was on one specific computer. I don't know why. You'd be scanning along, like checking in books, and then you'd scan a book, and it would freeze up, and you'd have to shut it down and restart it. And then if you tried to scan that same book, it would do the same thing.
Mine was
but
doing
you could
that
do other
last
ones.
week on the web.
I uninstalled the
That's
software and
web
reinstalled
client.
the software, and it
I'll try it on
hasn't
another
happened
computer.
since.
Because I just have a front desk computer.
You know what we might do is put up some kind of spreadsheet, a Google Doc or so on, that so we can start tracking these things that we're seeing in the web client. Some of it's going to be tied to your browser and your individual computer, but if we can see some things that multiple folks are seeing, we can look and see whether there's a bug report on that, or see if there's a solution for it. Obviously, they're making improvements to it, and we're on 3.1, and they're working on 3.4. So there's been improvements. but it's important for us to feel comfortable doing it and tracking those things that we're having problems with. All right, we are at 11:15. We have another half hour before we're going to take a break, or is that about right?
I think we were just talking about going until noon and then stopping.
Going until noon?
Yeah.
And then starting again at 12:30?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was going to do, I went to 3 different conferences. One of them was actually technically an unconference right before OLA and WLLA. And I went to the Evergreen Conference that next week. And so I was just going to do a recap of those. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to see if I can get it up on the screen. Maybe. Okay, from current slide. All right, those of you who are online, can you see the presentation? It's very silent out there, folks. Did I put y'all to sleep?
I'm getting a lot of yeses in the chat.
Oh, good. Thanks, Tia. You rescued me. All right. So let's see if I can. That works. So the first one, this was the first time they've done this. They did a Northwest Evergreen Symposium in Vancouver, Washington. It was at the Vancouver Community Library. And it was a bunch of Evergreen library staff, people from Lynn Benton Community College, and let's see, some folks came from Richland. Anyway, it was a good group. It wasn't a very big group, but it still was fun to get together and talk about the Evergreen software, what you liked, what you didn't like. So we got together in different groups. I was in the reports group, and we were talking about, what would we like changed about the reports and what would make them more user-friendly. And out of that came the idea we really need to have some kind of wiki up on the Evergreen site to share report templates. So that if somebody comes up with a good template, there's a way for somebody else to use it. So it was good brainstorming. And
how would you grab those? Could you import them?
Well, see, there's no way to import them right now.
It would be exported and importable,
yeah.
Like receipt templates.
Yes, ideally. Reports are pretty complex with all the different sources, but we did talk about having the different areas of the report template, and basically saying, okay, this is what I put in this part, this is what I put in that part, and just kind of breaking it down in a sense as you would be building it yourself. There is the ability to translate a report template into an SQL command, but that's going to be like, okay, who's going to take that and backport it to a report? So the other thing that we did that day was they talked about new features in the software. We talked about copy tags. So there was somebody there from Equinox who did a demonstration on some of the new features. And I think she's more locally based. I don't know whether she's living in Seattle right now, but anyway, it was nice to have somebody on hand.
Is King County still?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. And they're very active in the development area of things. They're programmers. So, yeah.
Get them to join Sage.
They're too big on their own. So that's basically that. And then OLA, I'm just listing the sessions I attended. The big one, the pre-conference, was an all-day. session on using Library of Congress faceted vocabularies. So if you're a cataloger, very fascinating. I've got all of the slideshows, and I'm going to be sharing those with the catalogers. Basically, it's brand new tags to use within the record that help bring out a lot of information about the author. And so probably a future training is what I'm guessing will come out of that. But it was a very good presentation. So yeah, just I attended a lot this year that had to do with resources that were kind of out of the ordinary, because a lot more of those are coming into our catalog, and I wanted to kind of see how are people treating those within the system and featuring them. So that was useful information. The Evergreen Conference again was fabulous. It was in Pennsylvania, Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. I also went to pre-conference sessions with this conference as well. So I had a half a day on web client receipts and a half a day on programming the Evergreen backend. And it was over my head, but I have the information. I'll pour through it and see what I can glean to use with our system. The web client receipts, I've got a link to the PowerPoint presentation on the screen. What I'm going to do is I'll send this PowerPoint out to the general listserv after the meeting so that you can grab all of these links and have them for yourself. The web client receipts, there are folks that have recreated all of their receipt templates to work with the web client and all of the new vocabulary. So we can grab those and bring them into our system as well as kind of a test or default template that will upgrade what we currently have. I don't know whether that made any sense or not. So Thursday, I attended the cataloging interest group, and a lot of that was discussion of the Evergreen cataloging work group, which is a group that meets every month, and they go over how cataloging is functioning in the Evergreen software and what changes they want to make to that. And it's I guess the frequency of meeting of this group and the fact that they're so active, I think has made it possible for a lot of new cataloging enhancements to get into the system because the programmers are aware of what they want and need. Copy templates. We talked about this in the interest group because some people were having trouble with copy templates. And this is still something that's ongoing. They're trying to figure out why some people have problems and other people don't. One of the things that they discovered that was if you have default attributes set, try not setting any of those because that seems to trigger the copy templates not to work. So I notated it here just as a suggestion, and the Pines documentation has a list of those defaults in the item templates. Mark batch import. This was interesting because when you merge or overlay records together, what we're doing now is if we like this record better, but we want to grab subjects out of the other record, there's a way to do that automatically by setting up the profiles, which I didn't know, and it's something I'm going to have to explore and figure out how to do. But that would speed things up if, you know, we're not having to copy and paste those subjects over. It'll automatically bring them into the destination bib. The Z39.50 now has a UPC search. I believe with our version, that's another thing I have to check out. You know, you learn so much information at these conferences, you start to lose track of what version has what enhancements. But I did find out that if you want to incorporate the UPC search, you have to change your Z39.50 settings. It doesn't automatically just come. So I made a note of that so that I can go back and look at our settings and see if I can
I'm pretty
enable
sure ours does it. Because I was cataloging a couple weeks ago and there was no barcode, there was just a weird little store thing, and I brought it up and I went, oh, that's not supposed to happen. You know what I mean? It was completely unexpected.
Okay.
If I had been half asleep, I would have never scanned that.
Right.
It brought it up.
Yeah, and with a lot of, we've been successful scanning in the UPCs in the ISBN spot, because sometimes they will, some systems will put it in both places. But now they have a unique search for UPC that we can enable. Also on Thursday, I went to the tags and alerts and notes session and learned more about copy tags, copy alerts, and copy notes. And there were a lot of sessions in one day. Flying without a net, vendor resource discovery within Evergreen without bibliographic records. I was really excited about this presentation because it opens the door for us to connect with Overdrive and search and check out through an Overdrive API without having all the records loaded into our system, which is how you currently have to connect with Overdrive, is having all those records in our system. Well, this piece of software that was developed with RB Digital and Pines is paving the way for us to be able to do that with Overdrive. And I think that functionality is going to be in 3.4. So anyway, I don't know whether anybody's excited about it, but I was. Just because it'd be really nice to tie our Evergreen system with our Library to Go. And with the way the software works, there is a PowerPoint link there that you can look at. They basically, in your checkouts, there's an additional tab that shows what you've got checked out under that e-resource vendor. In our case, it would be Overdrive. So they'd be able to, in their own patron account, see what they have checked out in Sage and also see what they've got checked out with the vendor. So coming down the pike, hopefully something that we can take advantage of. Another session I attended that today was demystifying holds features within Evergreen. Holds are so complex. Basically, it's just going over all the different terms like hard stalling and soft stalling, and anyway, a lot of vocabulary and how different holds are handled. I took notes. Don't know whether we will change anything different about what we're doing, but it was interesting. Conference Friday, Circulation Interest Group. Somebody put together web training, a Zool to web training exercise. There's a link to that. The Zool client is what the desktop client is. And so they basically created some exercises to help their Circ staff transition from the desktop client to the web client. And then I attended a conference session on cataloging comics and manga in Evergreen. That was very interesting. And scrub-a-logging. I don't even know whether that's a word, but it's kind of an interesting word.
It is.
That was formatting and fixing MARC records. There again, involving database cleanup and different techniques that they had used to do database cleanup. And Consortium Leaders Roundtable was also Friday. And this is a new group. I'm now a member of it. They put together a Google spreadsheet for funding models, which is something that we've recently talked about.
And so I want to share that with the community. Basically, a bunch of different consortia answered about how they were structured, what resources they offer, and how their funding works. So we need to add SAGE to that Google spreadsheet. And there's a listserv that we're going to have future discussion on. So it's just things, that big consortium. I know one of the things that came out of that, and something that we can talk about this afternoon, was one of the big consortia had decided that along with individual cataloging logins, that they were going to, everybody was going to have their own circulation login. I don't know whether we want to go that far. There's some pros or cons.
Can you tell us what those would be?
It's like a staff, each
No,
staff.
what the pros and cons would be.
Okay, well, I'm thinking pro, security.
Correct.
And accountability. Mm-hmm. The problem with the CERC desk is, though, you've got people coming and going, and they either have to log that person out and put their initials. So I'm just thinking there's some workflow dynamics that would be tricky.
It reminds me of, like when I go to Bimart and I want to buy something, they have to log into the cash register every single time.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen at my CERC desk.
Right. So it was an idea. But anyway, that was something that was talked about at this consortium leaders roundtable, because they're thinking, we're now with a web client and we want to make sure that everything's secure. And this was one of the ways that they approached it.
Yeah, I mean, the secure part is an issue for sure.
That's even more passwords that you'd have to have in the system and make sure that they were.
I've seen those people at grocery stores, they have like a barcode on their name tag.
That's cool.
Just an idea. It is an idea.
That's a good idea.
I'm observing.
So I figure this afternoon when we're kind of brainstorming goals and priorities and stuff, we could talk about logins and what we want to do. Another session I went to was about labels. Here again, troubleshooting for printing within the web client was a part of this as well. And so I tried to take as many notes as I could along with the PowerPoint so that we can troubleshoot any web client printing issues. Conference on Saturday, there was a systems administration interest group, development update, and the future of Evergreen. So, looking at time, I wasn't supposed to do that. Okay, it doesn't want me to click on it. I will go to the website directly. What I was going to do for the last part of this was to somebody put together a PowerPoint presentation of new features in version 3.2 and 3.3. So I thought I would highlight those, unless we want to do something different.
Can I just ask you, when you went to the one conference and they were talking about funding, did you see anything there that jumped out at you and that could really work well for us? No? Okay.
It's an issue with everybody, isn't it?
It is. It is. And it makes it more complex because, some consortia are completely funded by their state library. Some receive partial funding from the state library, partial from members. Some are total member. But then they don't have the same mix of libraries that we do. They're all publics so I think it's going to be useful studying the spreadsheet to see if we can get any ideas, but I don't think there's going to be any instant solutions. No. It was helpful to have a room full of people that are going through some of the same struggles and questions that we are too.
Did you share how we do it? How our structure?
I did.
And then nobody say, that's crazy.
No.
And we're like, that doesn't work. No, maybe a dinosaur.
That's good. That's good.
Okay. It said my audio connection has been lost, so.
Well, in a sense, we are partially funded by the state library coming through.
We are. Courier, yeah. We are. Courier.
She's back.
The audio's back.
Echo.
As it goes.
Right. So there was a link to the rest of the presentations. Obviously, I could not go to every single session because they had probably 4 sessions, for every time slot. But folks posted their, I gotta drag this over.
Did you go by yourself this year?
I did.
In previous years, have other staff gone with you, like,
Brett.
who? Brett or Heidi? Didn't she go a couple times?
Brent, yeah, Heidi has gone in the past. She elected not to go this year. Okay, so this is the list of presentations.
Oh,
So there's a bunch here. Okay.
so they call it Webby.
Yeah, that's its nickname. Some people like it, other people don't. You'll see ducks, around kind of featuring it. So I don't think I can view this the same way I did mine. So hopefully folks can still see the screen okay. Is that going to work?
Beth, all we are seeing on the outside is your desktop.
Oh, darn.
What's about that button that says
Yeah, if you
present?
click present, it'll.
Share.
Oh, present.
Okay.
Maybe.
What about now, Dia?
Still seeing the same. Oh, now see it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like magic. It's just a delay, I guess. Okay. So this is a summary of new features that are highlighted in 3.2 and 3.3. Of course, this is only part of the list. There's obviously more. So we'll go through. 3.2 was released in October of 2018. Does that make sense? Yes. The reason we didn't go with 3.2 is you guys weren't ready for the web client yet.
We still don't have it.
And so the last version that allows you to use the web client is 3.1. So we did as far in 3.1 as we could go, and still keep both versions of the client that give you guys time to get comfortable. Well, I don't know whether comfortable is the right word, but at least more prepared. There we go. So one of the things that, okay, now I'm trying to think of which screen is doing what. This one's not advancing at all, but this one is. Drag this one over. It's too big.
Just drag it to the top edge and let it go.
Drag it to the top edge.
Yeah, if you drag something to the top edge, it full screens it automatically. Or we could just switch back to the mirror view instead of the separate display.
I thought I had. Okay. You're gonna rescue me?
This one? Yeah. Good. So I don't need to turn my volume off.
No, I'll just silence it.
Yes.
I told you I didn't know how to use it.
Okay. Tia, do you still see it?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right, I kind of skipped through 3.2.
So let's go back. Okay. Improvement to patron acquisitions request. We're not really using acquisitions right now. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I know they've done a lot of work on acquisitions and its use in the web client. Support for inventory date. There will be a new field in the item for inventory date, so that when you do inventory, that could be recorded as a date. You know, you could scan them all into item status, or basically do a batch update of those items and say, okay, at this point in time, these were inventoried and this was the date that it happened.
Can I go back to the acquisitions?
Yes.
Have we done any training for Sage about use of acquisitions?
We have not, and that is on our list to do, just to get an overview so folks can decide whether they want to use the acquisitions module. So I don't know, is the best time to do that in the summer or the fall, or?
Probably the summer.
Probably summer. So
Start
we
the
could,
fiscal year, so it'd be good to set up.
okay. So maybe we'll do a training on acquisitions in July or August. Okay. And we can see whether we can use these patron acquisition requests. The request feature tying into acquisitions, you really kind of have to have some basic acquisitions set up in order to be able to facilitate placing an order based off that request.
Comment?
Yeah, it says I'm back. I'm wondering how much the online community missed of that and how much is going to be on the recording.
Didn't hear anything past Perry asking you to go back.
Oh, okay. Basically, he wanted to look at the patron acquisitions request and asked about whether we've done any training on acquisitions, and we have not. So we are going to schedule a general training on acquisitions in July, just to give an overview to folks to see whether their libraries even want to use it and start getting it set up. I talked about, did you hear about the inventory date?
Yes.
Okay. Emergency closing handler. This is a new feature that allows you to basically, if a closing is marked an emergency, it enables automatic adjustment of due dates, hold expirations, booking dates, and overdue fines. So if you have a snow day, it makes it a lot easier to kind of handle all of those ripple effects that happen with an emergency closing like that. So this is in 3.2. Automatic renewal of items out. This is a new feature that can be turned on that allows items to be automatically renewed based upon.
I really want that.
Yeah. You really want that? Okay.
I want that.
So that's an exciting feature coming, and there's flexibility with how we set it up, and we can talk more about that closer to the time that we have the feature. Which, if we upgrade late fall, say we upgrade in November, this will be a feature that you'll be able to have. Okay.
Merry Christmas. You don't have to renew your books yourself anymore.
Yeah. So my daughter has that at her library, and it's amazing.
I have a quick question just to clarify. So if we upgrade to this 3.3 or 3.4, then we will no longer be able to also use the Salad client.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm kind of prioritizing site visits to go out and show the web client to folks, so that those who don't feel confident to pursue it kind of on their own, we can do a show and tell. So at least they're presented with it, and it won't be completely a shock when that time comes. Another exciting thing that I'm just thrilled about is batch actions from the search results, what they call baskets. There will now be the ability to select items and then add them all to the whole list or add them all to a list. So it's just a bunch of different things.
From buckets.
They decided on baskets rather than buckets. Yes, it is different than buckets.
It is.
This is a patron feature as well as a staff feature. So you can multi-select records in a result list. You can send them, and then it will put them, add them to your basket. You can, basket contents can be added to a list or a bucket if you're a staff member. And
so it's
facilitates.
Sounds like it's more of a temporary bucket.
Well, it is a temporary bucket, but it also allows you to do things like, say you want to place holds on several different authors' books. It allows you to do that by selecting.
That's cool.
Would it be considered similar to a shopping basket?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's why they went with the icon that they did. They actually had a vote across the Evergreen community as to, you know, what the name was going to be and what the icon was going to be. Another feature in 3.2 is patron preferred name. It's a new patron field that you can put in there. If the patron really wants to go by a different name, then there's what their legal name is.
So if their legal name's Catherine and they want to put Kathy, that's what it would be? Okay.
Things like that.
Mm-hmm. I had a mother ask if there was an option to put all of her children's library cards together as a family, so she could check all of them at once instead of logging into each account. Is that an option on there?
Not yet.
You mean?
So link
from the patron side.
From the patron side, yeah. Or to change, put a nickname with their account number so that when they log in, they could just, instead of doing the whole barcode, they could say Susie, Frank, Tommy.
There's a third-party software, I think it's called Library Elf, that you can subscribe to as a member library, and it handles all that. I haven't priced it out for a long time.
But we don't have that in Evergreen?
One of the things that is coming, and I don't know whether it's featured in any of these introductions here, is I know that they were going to make the group details viewable on the patron side of the OPAC. So that's coming.
Okay, that is coming.
Yeah. All right. Persistent workstation settings. This will improve. Right now, there's a bunch of settings that are stored in your browser. So if you clear cache when you're working in the web client, those settings go away. With 3.2, they're now saving those on the server. So clearing your cache isn't going to disrupt your work. So anyways, it's a move in the right direction of having those workstation settings stored not locally, but on the server so that you're protected, I guess. 3.3, you will be able to view bookings in the OPAC. Now, some of the community colleges use bookings, but not very many of our libraries use bookings. Bookings is a module that allows you to reserve a resource if you make it bookable. Things like meeting rooms. I think you could do this with museum passes. Community colleges use it for video resources so that professors can reserve a video for a certain week slot.
Book appointments with reference librarians?
You know, because that's not a cataloged resource, it wouldn't really work with the bookings module.
Could catalog it.
But I guess, yeah,
You could create a record.
It kind of be a little tricky. But anyway, they're trying to revitalize the bookings functionality within the Evergreen system. And one of the things that they've done in version 3.3 is make it viewable to the patrons. So patrons can actually book a resource from, and staff don't have to do it. So it gives us more functionality. Okay, Dia was asking if we were Wi-Fi connected. She was suggesting we plug into the hardwire. We will do that at lunchtime, Dia. I apologize. I didn't realize it was going to cut out as much as it has. Delia says it's back now. So anyway, bookings would be another thing that we could look at doing a training on to see if libraries would want to utilize it in their libraries. Privacy waiver would allow others to use your account. You can specify who you want to be able to access your account.
That's what maybe the mother could use.
Yeah.
Or no, not really.
But, I mean, it does.
It's sort of the same thing, yeah.
Kind of, I mean.
Yeah, like Bobby wants Susie to pick up his bookstore.
We kind of do something like that now, we just make
a note.
notes.
Yeah, we do that too, or verbally over the phone.
Yeah.
So this just formalizes the process.
So
these are features in 3.3.
3.3.
And we're going to be moving to 3.4 when we go, so we'll get them all. Patron, parent, guardian field, they're actually creating a dedicated field for that. In the past, we've kind of used a secondary identity field for that, and now it's going to have its own field. And it's searchable. Mark import export interface, or improving that interface. Probably only applies to certain catalogers who bring in records, but it's another enhancement. So it's just showing a screenshot of the new interface, and just kind of like, wow, okay, there's a lot of stuff on there, but it is going to make it nicer. Okay, more showing recent imports. Angular staff catalog, this just has to do with the programming language in the back end of the staff catalog and the improvements that it makes with connections.
Is Angular a name for the programming?
Yep.
Program link.
It's a programming language.
Program link.
It's a programming language.
Is there an option in this new one to remove the male-female category in library in that registration?
Oh, down at the bottom?
Yeah.
We can do that anytime.
Okay.
That's a Sage-wide setting that we put in there at the very beginning. If nobody's using it, nobody cares about it, we can get rid of it.
Whenever I see it, I have a concern about it with all the changings in the country right now. I think it's.
Well, let's bring that up this afternoon.
Okay.
Have some discussion about it, and yeah, that's a local Sage thing.
Okay,
just a category that we can remove if we want. These are just screenshots of some of the catalog views with the change in the software. The default OPAC look. Some of this would be different in our system because we've customized, and of course that has to do with questions from the PowerPoint that somebody else put together. So that puts us close to 12, and it was just a quick overview of the features. Obviously, closer to the time that we're going to upgrade, we're going to send out a list of all those features. And hopefully, our hope is that we're going to take our test server and upgrade that to 3.4, or at least 3.3, so that we can hop on our test server and do some experimenting and get an idea of what things, how they function and what they look like before we actually make the jump.
How are we going to be able to test if we're having speed issues in some sites with the web?
Well, I will try some different things. I'll reload it and I'll try different machines because I'm going to just use the one at the front desk and see if I can get past that because I really want to use it. I was all excited, but
one comment that was made in regards to the speed issue was that they noticed that the speed degraded
the more checkouts that were in that, or the checkouts that were in that screen. So what they would do is, if they got to 10, they would open up the tab again and not keep all of, because I guess the redisplay of all of those.
So you're talking a single page on their record if they check out 20 items.
Right, yeah.
Just a single checkout never was a problem, but when you had a big list.
Yeah,
that's what started to seem like.
Yeah, they were saying with the big list, and I don't know whether that has improved but that was one of the things that they had done to improve their performance was, okay, when that list started growing, let's close that out, start it again so that it doesn't have as many items to display or go through.
Well, I'll be working on it again because I want to be able to use it. I don't want to have to learn to do it when I have to. I need to know what I'm doing.
How about we have, before we go with the new one, we have a period where we want every Sage library to be using their web on service.
Cold turkey. Not kind of like cold turkey.
So can we use that one training for our staff?
So did you say you're going to come do training?
I'm the only one who uses it in my library. But I need to get
We're not using it at all.
Okay.
Because I haven't been able to train the staff because I don't know how to use it.
Well, I'm going to come out and visit your library. We're going to set a date.
Good.
Yeah.
You wanted to do the upgrade in fall sometime?
Yeah.
So
we need to
after summer reading program, maybe.
It
might be difficult for the school libraries though to do a trial right when they're starting school. So it would have to be timed so that it wouldn't adversely impact school libraries.
Right.
Fall would be a good time for public libraries, I think. But that would push the implementation of the upgrade back a little bit. But yeah, I think we really should all, on a coordinated effort, everybody use the web line as if we'd already not had the option.
Yeah.
That's
a good idea.
So on which one of the web ones will we be able to sort, like my holding shelf? You can sort by patron, like you can on the stock client.
I will have to look at the list of, because that wasn't obviously featured, because that's more of a, I don't know whether I'd call it a bug, but it was functionality that we lost. So let me make a note of it. And I think, the sorting of the pull list.
Well, not the pull list, the hold shelf.
The hold shelf. Okay.
Here's another question. You get the list for the stuff you're supposed to pull in and list the library that it's supposed to go to. And I always I keep a paper copy because, well, I'm old and that's when the brain works. But then when I scan them to put the label on, they're not always the same. I know it's so Thursday I had 3 items that displayed for Elgin Publix. And I pulled them, and when I scanned them, because I'd already written out my labels, they went LeGrand. So LeGrand, you got some scribbled out because I was going to read.
It's probably telling you the patron as opposed to the pickup location, or the pickup location as opposed to the patron on the different lists.
Well, or maybe, their whole library, there was default pickup library or something rather than what they selected. I don't know. But it doesn't happen a lot. It happens a few times a month.
There are labels until I scan.
There are people from Union and Elgin who work in LeGrand and come to the LeGrand Public Library every week. So when they place a hold, they place it at this library to come to this library to pick it up because they can get here during open hours.
But in the display, it says the library to send it to you, and then when I check it in, so I just have to watch that build.
Well, and I think that's because it's displaying the patron's home library on one of the slips, and the pickup location on the other slip is probably what the difference is. I don't think it would be a glitch. I think it's just a pickup versus patron.
Look at your column picker and make sure that you're
that's what's on there,
route 2 instead of.
Because I haven't really looked at that since it was originally set up. Because every once in a while it just sort of throws me. And it's usually, the libraries are closely connected. It's not like it says the Dow and it's the Central.
And it's the same patron.
No, it's lots of different ones.
No, I meant it doesn't switch patrons.
No, the patron is the same, just
Okay.
the library I'm sending it to.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll look at my list when I do find my holds list and see if I've got the wrong thing selected.
Okay, we're going to take a break for lunch. For this afternoon, we're going to attempt to plug my computer into the hardwire network port so we don't have these interruptions. And go ahead and use that second link that was sent in the email. Thanks, everyone.
So, Harry, does your library have those receipts where people check out their books?
Yeah.
What kind of printers do you use for those?
Remember the names of them?
Yeah,
Are they
I
little
haven't done
Dymo
it yet,
printers?
because I don't know how to do the.
I'll email, are they expensive?
It's not bad. So I'll email you an answer.
I have a new.
Is that hard to set up?
I need to download it.
Not having done it myself, I can't really comment. It's something Jim does.
They're above my level, I'm sure.
Do you see on there, there's a box that says auto email receipt? Is that actually working? Like, does it email receipt? Do you see the little box on there?
I have not noticed that.
Do you
I
have
started
receipt
clicking
makers?
Yeah,
You do too?
yeah.
We're like the only library that doesn't, I think.
So it's a little box that says email receipts. I just noticed it pop up not too long ago. So I started asking people. I said, I don't think it's working yet, but in the future,